So what can you accomplish after 1 year of going from couch to cyclist? That's something I'm looking to answer for myself today here. About a year ago, I did exactly that. I hadn't had hardly any activity for about 2 years. I was at 86 kilo for my height of 170, definitely overweight. So after spending nearly 300 hours on the bike, 6,000 kilometers of cycling, and starting to track and watch my calories, I've come down to 68.3 kilos, so down almost 18 kilos in 1 year. And where I started with my power is my first FTP test that I did was on Wahoo Systems indoor training app using their 4DP, which, if you're not familiar, it's a beast of a test. You basically test both your 5-second sprint power, your 1-minute max power, 5-minute max power, and your 20-minute or an FTP test, all in one go. So it's like an hour and 20-minute test or something like that. If you like suffering, it's a perfect test for you. And those numbers that I had, I'll put up on screen here, were under 1,000 for my 5-second, 281 for 1 minute, 171 for 5 minutes, and 137 for my FTP. And that was without any training. I just hopped on the bike and I went straight to a test, which was quite crazy to do. And I could tell that that wasn't the best that I could put out. That FTP felt way too low, especially at 86 kilos. You can really tell like how out of shape I was. So I came back about a week later and did a ramp test where you basically do a step test where every minute you go up a certain amount of watts until you just can't pedal anymore. And then based on your max that you got to, multiply it by 0.75, and that's your FTP. And when I did that, my 5-minute went up to 207, because it was a 5-minute test in there as well. And my FTP was 166, and that felt more reasonable of where I was actually at fitness-wise. Fast forward, I've done a few more tests there. I got my FTP up to 183 about 2 months later. A month after that, I was able to get up to 209. And then at the end of July, I got up to 241. So, it's a kind of about 80 to 100 watt increase. And I was expecting to continue that progression. That's one of the great things about being a newbie cyclist, is you can see progress really quickly, even if you're not doing much structured training. Just doing anything, you're going to see progress. But with structured training, you really can go quite far. However, I had a big setback. I partially tore my left Achilles after moving to China. So I basically had 4 months completely off the bike after August. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hold that 240 watts FTP in this test, but I guess we'll find out. My rehab of my Achilles has been going really well. I've tore my other Achilles many years ago, and that took me a really long time to rehab through and come back from, but this one doesn't seem to have been quite as bad, although basically went from couch to cyclist, back to couch again, and now I'm trying to go back to being a cyclist again. So yeah, no idea where this is really going to put me at. I've only been back on the bike for about a month, 6 weeks or so, but my Achilles has been feeling well. Hasn't been giving me too many issues over the past like 3-4 weeks. So I figured it's time to get my training zone set for the year so that I can properly train and accomplish some of the big goals and events that I am hoping to take on this year. So I'm going to go ahead and get kitted up and get some muscle activation going, stretch out a little bit, and get on with the test. so I figured I'd walk you through what the indoor trainer setup looks like. Rocking the Zwift Ride, which we bought in the US right before we came to China, and we brought it with us. Runs off of the Kicker Core. This is the third smart trainer that I've owned. I'd say the Kicker Core does a really good job. I prefer my Neo 2 Tax that I had, but it does a good job. Benefit of this guy is that both my wife and I can use it because it's adjustable, kind of. I'll save that maybe for another video. One nice thing about doing in Zwift is you've got all of your control functions here. So electronic shifting, all of your power-ups, steering, all that jazz, although I don't really race in Zwift at all. And then we've got some fuel. So we got 45 grams of carbs in these 2 bottles, water, and some solid food in case I need it. And most importantly, industrial size fan. That guy puts out a lot of wind, which is really important for indoor cycling, is to make sure that you've got good air movement going around. So, all right, let's hop on the bike. All right, so I'm actually going to start my warm-up in my Whoosh instead of Zwift. I'm not currently subscribed to Zwift at the moment, so I only have the 25 kilometers free per month, which is more than enough to go do FTP test. However, I don't know if it's enough to do my my openers. So we're going to just pick some random thing here. I've been hopping between my Whoosh, Ruvi, Wahoo system, which I do pay for Wahoo system at the moment. I probably won't next year because I've been developing my own workouts and just putting them onto these other virtual trainers. And I can also start using those outside on my Garmin head unit. One thing I like about my Whoosh is it's free. It's a decent virtual world. As you can see, there's an okay amount of people in here. You can chat with people, but I still prefer Zwift. I think that's just because I started indoor training on Zwift during lockdown, and Zwift really helped keep me sane during that period, so I guess it has a special place in my heart. I haven't done Alp du Zwift since August, since July. Yeah, I hadn't done it since July, and I'm still at that point where I haven't broken the 1 hour mark going up, which is an arbitrary number, but it's nice to have little goals. First time I was way far off from the hour mark. I think I was like, I don't know, 120, 130, maybe more. An hour 20, hour 30. And then I got down to an hour and 8. And then the last one I did in July, I got 1 hour, 1 minute, and some odd seconds. So I'm about 2 minutes off from breaking that threshold. I'm a little bit lighter than I was in July now, but if I don't have enough power in the legs, if my FTP has come down from that 230, 240 mark, then I won't break that hour. But figured, you know what, let's give it a go. I really like doing Alp du Zwift. Let's see if I can get under that hour mark. I do not like the ramp test. I think the ramp test puts a little bit too much emphasis on your anaerobic capacity and endurance. So people with better anaerobic engines are gonna perform a little bit better on a ramp test, which is fine. That's not really me. So then I thought about doing a 20-minute test, which then you take 95% of the power that you produce for 20 minutes to get your FTP number. And that was initially what I was going to do today, is just do a 20-minute test. But when going through my data and also just knowing myself, I do a lot better in performance when I have some other goal besides trying to get a power number within 20 minutes. All of the long climbs that I've done on Zwift have actually been my best power output numbers. All right, about to kick this off. I'll lay down. As I was getting onto Zwift, apparently my screen recording software failed. So we're gonna have to look at the results and data here on the screen. So I did make it under the 1 hour mark. That was, I was really pleased with that. 55:49 to be precise. So before I was at an hour and 1 minute and 30 some seconds. So really happy with that result. Really smashed it. And where I really was able to make that difference was in the middle section of the climb. So I figured I'd go through kind of what my pacing strategy was, because I think this really came down to how I paced it, not necessarily a increase in fitness, as I'll show in just a second here. So this is my interval data from intervals.ic, which is what I use to record all my rides and data and workout and keep track of all that information for us data geeks. And right here is the first sector where I began climbing. And I was shooting for 230 watts, so about 10 watts, what I thought was less than my FTP of what it used to be. And I hit 233, so I didn't go too hard. And this is the steepest section of the climb, which if we look over in Velo Viewer here, you can actually see all this red stuff at the beginning, orange and red stuff at the beginning here is the really steep bits, like 10, 12% grade. And then it starts to level off with a little bit of steepness intermixed throughout. And so I didn't go too hard on that first third, and I think that's what allowed me to save my energy for the rest of the climb and not poop out too quick. And then this other like 2/3 to 1/2 really of the climb, I upped my power output a little bit. I was shooting for about 240, I hit 239, and I was able to stay within that 165 beats per minute, which, as I said before, from previous testing, I knew that was about the upper range of my heart rate for my threshold power. So I didn't go over it. And it was around then, as I was coming out of bend 6, it looks like, I became aware that I was probably going to break 1 hour, but I was very aware the only way that I wouldn't was if I cramped. And so I was actually a little worried that I was going to cramp, and so I brought my power down a little bit. I brought it back down to that 232 watt because out of more fear of cramping than anything else. As I rounded this last bend, and this last bend is always the hardest part for me mentally, this little bit here from bend 1 to the banner is really a long stretch, and where I suffer the most usually. And I just dumped the tank and averaged 252 watts through there. So together that gave me a FTP of 237 watts, which was calculated from 51 minutes at 238 watt average. So I was really happy with that effort. I really put it all out there, and I think it goes to show what you can do with 1 year of consistent training as a cyclist. You know, going from 130, 160 watt FTP to 237 was quite a significant improvement in 1 year with consistency. And you know, after having 4 months off the bike due to injury and only really a month, 6 weeks back on, I'm quite pleased with the result of being able to get under that 1 hour mark, which I've been hunting since 2020. So yeah, very, very happy with that. And ultimately, you know, FTP is only one number of what it means to be a cyclist, or to determine how good of a cyclist you are, or what types of challenges you can take on. And really, I think it comes down to what's more important is your durability. And that just comes with increasingly taking on more challenges and getting those adaptations. So for me, I want to be able to do longer climbs. I would love to go to like France, Italy, you know, and do some of these big climbs, maybe do Alpe du Zwift one day and actually test it in real life. I think that'd be pretty awesome. And for that type of stuff, like, yeah, having a high FTP and low weight is great in theory, but actually being able to get out there on the road and really do some long climbs, hard climbs, feel what gravity feels like, gain some of the speed skills that you need for taking feel in while on the bike. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to accomplish some of these other big goals. And so getting outside and riding, I think, is really important. However, there's a great argument to be made for the indoor training setup, just how easy it is to get on the bike and train. And a lot of my training in the past year has been on the indoor trainer, and that's how I lost 17, 18 kilograms of weight, was mostly through indoor training. Only a little bit of that came from outdoor riding. So you know, I'm not poo-pooing indoor training whatsoever. I love Zwift, and I love my indoor training sessions. That said, training outside is so much better. So that's where I hope to take you guys in the next video, is to get out on the roads here in China and kind of show you around, and just have fun outside and start getting into some of the cycling culture here and bring you along for those adventures. So I'll see you next time, and hopefully coming from the road outside. See ya.